Okay, we are live. Our broadcast is officially live. Welcome, everybody, to the Burial Grounds. This is the first official episode. It is Monday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I am your host, Clive Craven, and we are going to go ahead and get straight into it tonight. We're going to introduce our other host, starting with.
Uh, JP, you could check me out on my channel, which is YouTube/DoubleshotJ. Mess around with Twitter a bit. That's Twitter/DoubleshotJP. And my channel, I really just do reviews and horror news, weekly horror news. I started that. And yeah.
Word. Yo, what up, everybody? Steven Ferrandino of Shock Extreme Productions. You can find me on YouTube, that is Shock Extreme 1. You can find me on Facebook if you want at Shock Extreme Productions. I don't screw around with Twitter because I don't have time for that shit, so either YouTube or Facebook, go ahead.
Nice. Yo, what's up, everybody? It's Mood616 here. That's my YouTube name channel. You can find me on Facebook at MoodsJFailure if you want to look me up. Friend me, and that's really about it. Otherwise, I don't fuck around with Twitter either, because like Steve, I don't have the time. You know, I'm broadcasting live from work right now, so that's how busy I am.
With your
In a
partner
closet.
right next to you.
In a closet, exactly.
So, in case you haven't noticed, we don't fuck around with Twitter.
Only JP.
Okay, so let's
Twitter
go ahead and get
haters.
straight into it tonight. Basically, tonight is an introduction show. It's the first time we're going live, so we're going to go ahead and kind of introduce ourselves. I'm going to go ahead and kick things off. I'm going to kind of tell you guys about some of my favorite horror movies, some of my favorite films that I really enjoy within the horror genre. So let's get right into it. Some of my favorites, George A. Romero's classic, Day of the Dead, one of my absolute tops. Absolutely love the film, everything about it. Extremely good makeup, great atmosphere, great music. Tom Savini does the effects. Greg Nicotero, just a phenomenal combination. Just a really enjoyable film. Another one of my tops is Return of the Living Dead. Absolutely love it. I know some people are on the fence about horror comedies, but for me, that one is just absolutely bliss. Everything was done absolutely perfect about it. Another one of my absolute favorite classics, Clive Barker's Hellraiser. Just a phenomenal movie, the original. I do enjoy the second and some of the sequels, but just the original is just absolutely amazing. So I'll go ahead and start it off with those three. So let's go ahead and get into it.
Well,
Anybody got anything to
I'll
say
say
about
something
those?
Hellraiser. I think Hellraiser might be a bit overrated. I do like the movie, but
Oh, starting off with a bang
I think
already?
the story
Yeah,
is
on every fucking movie.
Oh, shit.
You don't think the story is a bit of like kind of all over the place, like at the end with the big giant, like there's certain things that just don't make sense, especially the way that they like solve the gateway to hell. They kind of just like rub it a bit, and it like it destroys the Cenobites. I think it could have been a bit stronger in the story, but it is a classic. It really is.
It's a good film. I honestly prefer part two. I think it's
So do I.
yeah, definitely, better well done. The story's a little easier to follow too. I understand where you're coming from in the first one. It can be a little confusing for sure.
But I do really like Kirsty. What's her name? Ashley Lawrence, right?
Yeah, Ashley Lawrence. Yeah.
She has a really like girl next door vibe to her. She reminds me of like a Heather Langenkamp type girl too.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely agree with that.
Definitely. I've honestly never seen any of them besides the first movie, and the first movie's honestly blown me away with the idea of killing other people just to get his skin back and to recover from being just a pile of blood and guts.
Yeah,
The
for
ending's
sure.
gotta be probably one of the best endings I've ever seen.
I you watch those movies to see the Cenobites, like their makeup and the stuff is just so creepy looking. When they're on screen, your eyes just get big and you have to pay attention to them. And that is the strongest point in the film, in the Hellraiser series. At least the first three, in my opinion, is just how creepy the Cenobites are.
Yeah, it's just too bad about that franchise. You got three
One
pretty
thing
good
about the
films.
Cenobites is crazy is like how Pinhead got like pretty much like the whole movie. The other Cenobites, they were pretty much like a lot more shocking and gruesome, but for some reason like Pinhead got the whole story and was pretty much the star then of every single Hellraiser movie. Like, I don't get it's. I like it. I like Pinhead, but it was just wondering like how did he get like the rap and not any of the other Cenobites?
Yeah, I
I
really
guess
like the Chatterteeth one.
yeah, Chatter is awesome. I think what Shock was getting at. I mean, with Doug Bradley holding that role, and Pinhead being the center focus, I think it's because of the story. He's the only one with a backstory. Hold on. He's the only one with a backstory, so the rest of them are kind of just, I don't know, they're more or less wayside characters.
Well, I
They
think
don't really have much of a story to them, so I think that's why they decided to really focus on him rather than any of the other ones in the films.
to me, it almost seems like they don't really focus on the Cenobites too much at all. It's more of the story of Frank and Julia.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And the Cenobites are kind of background characters. And Julia is such a bitch. She's probably the most bitchy villain character I've ever seen in my life. I hate her.
She is a despisable character.
Definitely is unlikable, that's for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, it's definitely a shame what happened to the whole franchise, though, because you pretty much have 1 and 2. I like 2 better. 3 is like more of like a slasher, but it's still fun. And 4 is just a mess, and from there you can pretty much stop watching.
Yeah, the later sequels in the Hellraiser franchise they're just so brutal. Like, I mean, I know a couple of the later ones, Doug Bradley or Pinhead, he's literally in the movie for like 2 minutes total time. You know, that's just how big of a mess the storylines were. Like you said, like we talked about this before, JP, and how the scripts were basically for other films, and then they just threw in the whole Doug Bradley character into the mix and stuff. So, that's in my opinion is just really brutal, man. Like they should have focused and put a little more effort into that franchise. That could have been a really cool franchise.
I agree. And it's sad because it is a really solid franchise, and it just kind of never really got the push after like the third one. I mean, even the third one isn't amazing, but I still feel that the original elements are there all the way up to part 4. Once you get to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, they're just really fucking bad. I mean, it just goes downhill extremely quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's once
I
they started
remember-
going direct to video.
Yeah. And, you know, I remember I think sometime last
That most
year,
recent one was Psycho.
fucking ugh. You know, I haven't even brought myself to watch Revelations yet. I still haven't even watched it.
I think Revelations
biased.
is pretty bad, but honestly, compared to the other sequels that are also bad, you know, the one saving grace with the sequels is Doug Bradley. But I think Revelations has a better story than half of the other films because it is a Hellraiser story. Revelations still has the Hellraiser story. It's just they don't have Doug Bradley.
Yeah, Revelations was actually created to be a Hellraiser sequel, unlike, you know, the other ones were basically just kind of, you know, the characters were thrown into other scripts and shit. This one was actually created, you know, for obvious reasons to keep the franchise, you know, and shit like that too, but I don't know, man.
Going a little bit more into the Hellraiser thing, what do you think can save that franchise? Is it just done, or is there something that can, you know, revive it?
I think it's done.
I mean,
There's
I
really
think-
no hope.
I
I'd
think
say
if
it's
they
just
wanted to
over with.
revive it with like a real sequel, you know, like you know, a quality sequel like 2 or 3, you know, on that level, something that was actually, you know, fully written for, you know, the franchise and stuff like that. I think that's really the only way they can save it now because it's gone so downhill. Not a lot of people really care about it anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, is it almost ready for an official remake? Just kind of reboot the whole series up?
Probably, I would say yes.
The only thing bad is I just don't know who they would get to play Pinhead that would, you know, work right if they're going to remake it. I think that's the biggest problem because story-wise, you have something there. You have it's a, you know, what was it? It was based on a book, right? There's already a foundation for a good, solid story, and you know the characters are awesome. You know the gore is all there. Like it can be a good film. It's just the one problem that you have right now is, you know, Doug Bradley is kind of getting older. I believe he even said that he doesn't want to play Pinhead anymore. So if you're gonna do a remake, you got to go with somebody totally new. But we all know what happened with Freddy.
Jackie Earl Haley.
You mean the Muppets from space?
The Muppets from space.
That
Or-
fucking face looks like a puppet from space. I swear to God, it's just ridiculous.
They went too over
It
the
looks
top
like
with the
a
burn
fucking
factor.
Jim Henson creation on steroids and crack. It's fucked.
Yeah, I got to admit, they did too much on the burn thing. Like, the face was just over the top CG garbage.
I
Yeah,
much
I-
prefer the more grizzled look of the original Krueger with the big layers of skin and just like the way it just looks more authentic to me.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So what about Day of the Dead and Return of the Living Dead?
Well, Day of the Dead for me, as I said, is an absolute classic. I mean, even the
So you
music
like
in that
it over
song
Dawn?
is so amazing. I do. I actually prefer.
So
To
do
me,
I.
in my opinion, Day to Me is my top out of the original trilogy.
Yeah, mine
Then
too.
Dawn and then Night.
Yeah, I think the reason I like Day of the Dead so much is I like as much as I like the mall setting in Dawn. There's something about the claustrophobic, underground feeling that they have in that, and I really like the battle between the military guys and the scientists, and then the people caught in the middle. It really works for me.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
Dawn of the Dead is my favorite horror film of all time, but I respect Day of the Dead, like the shit out of that movie. It's fucking great, man. It's great all around. The gore effects by Savini are absolutely amazing. The characters are awesome. The setting's brilliant too.
What about Bub? Do you
There's
think
nothing
Bub
wrong with that movie? It's just brilliant.
is Bub the most iconic zombie of all time, or would that go to somebody else?
I would.
Got a little bit of lag.
Leading role
something's
unless you
going on
take
there.
probably the gas station guy from Land of the Dead. That's pretty much it. I mean, you don't see the names of the zombies appearing in like Halloween. Like, literally.
I think we
Oh,
lost
God.
Steve.
Dropped out. I don't know what's going on. He's running around with his cam or something like that. Doing like 500 in his room right now. But yeah, I don't know, man. Bub, yeah, I mean, definitely is one of the most iconic zombies of all time. For me personally, I think the most iconic zombie for me is the zombie from the film Zombie. Lucio
Yeah,
Fulci.
that is very iconic.
It's weird because it's like it's a zombie that's in the movie for a little bit of time, but just that whole
It's just that picture that.
it's the entrance of that zombie too, how it literally you see it coming out of the ground, and it's so gross, and that I don't know, that's always been in my mind. But Bub is amazing, but
Yeah, well, that zombie is like the quintessential, like perfect zombie. It's it's like a dead body zombie.
yeah,
And I would also argue that Tarman is the pretty iconic one too, because that brains when he screams brains, like you see that all the time.
yeah.
In other even like cartoons and stuff.
Yeah.
That whole thing got around. But speaking of Return of the Living Dead, that is definitely one that I would have threw in my top favorite horror films. Lately, throughout the past year or two, I've really got close to Return of the Living Dead. I watch it all the time. It's such a great. It's a kind of a weird movie too. Like the comedy, it's definitely a dark comedy too. But I just love the characters in it, and the gore's great, and the zombies are just cool, and the ending's awesome too.
And what is this? My connection died. My bad.
Return of the Living Dead.
Oh, by far, definitely. I mean, you have characters like Trash and Suicide. You don't hear those in like movies today, or
Yeah.
even back then. It's like, who the hell names a guy Suicide?
And the three guys too, the Tom Matthews, and then Fred, what is his name? Bert, and isn't the other dude's name Ernie too?
I don't
Something like
remember. I
that.
haven't watched it in a long time, so it's
Those-
not on the top of my head.
those three characters as they go back and forth throughout the film are just hilarious. When they got they cut the dude up and his body parts are all moving around and they say they're rabid weasels and stuff. I just die so many times. So many scenes in that film just crack me up. And the comedy isn't like straight in your face. It's really subtle, and it's not like stuff like Shaun of the Dead.
Even though you shit on Shaun of the Dead, that's still one of my favorites by far.
That was like the weirdest thing, dude. Steve, when you got cut off there, it cut me out of the chat here.
I know, my video connection went for shit. I had to change my location. So
It was weird because it actually cut me off. I had to reboot into it.
yeah, it looks like Clive's cut off now, but
That's so random. I don't know what's up with that. I don't even know how that works.
I was wondering why nobody was talking. Like,
Yeah,
I just kept the
totally-
conversation going.
The whole page refreshed on me, and I had to go back. I had to re-copy and paste and come
I
back
am here. I'm alive.
Anyways,
I'm
getting
sorry,
back
I
to
am
Return of
alive.
the Living Dead. JP, the other night when we were talking, I watched that movie 3 times in a row. Well, kind of trying to.
Yeah.
But I mean, literally, I watched it like 3 times in a row. That movie just never gets old to me, man. I love the characters in that movie. Everyone's fun. It's just memorable characters, and the whole structure of the film. It's just so much fun. It never gets old, man.
Yeah, it really is one that I can throw on and keep repeating, watching it over and over again.
Yeah.
And of course, the casting was great too. The people that they got really did great jobs with their, even like Suicide, the dude with the chain from his nose down. Wasn't he in Friday the 13th Part 5?
I don't know. I don't think so.
I can't remember if he was or not.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was.
He
He's the
played
main fucking
Vic.
character. He is.
Really?
Yes, he is.
Look-
No,
Uh,
I'm not talking about Tom. You're thinking of Part 6. With Tom
Oh,
Matthews.
okay, yeah. You're right. Jason lives, in 6. In 5? No, I don't think he's in 5.
No,
No,
I'm pretty
no.
sure he is. I think the dude
Really?
when Ethel and Junior they're at their house and he comes and is like, I could use a hot meal or something, and Ethel's like, clean all the shit out of chicken coop. I think that's him.
Oh, wow.
They look very different though.
Yeah,
Like-
well, that's because he's all like punked out.
Well, I know that.
Yeah,
Besides the piercings and stuff, I don't imagine that.
It might not be. I could be wrong,
Suicide
but
has
I'm
an awesome death in that movie, in Return of the Living Dead, too.
well, I'm pretty sure that guy actually did die like later on, like sometime after he made a few more movies. I forget what it was from, but maybe like cancer or something. I can't really remember. I might be tripping out and making shit up, but
Shit.
But yeah, for me, Return of the Living Dead is just, like I said, that's one of my favorites. I mean, I grew up on the movie. I remember I bootlegged it way back on VHS. This is a funny story. I actually bootlegged it on VHS before the DVD era, back in the early 90s when it was on Showtime or Cinemax one night. It was on real late. They had like a Return of the Living Dead marathon. They played all 3 of them, because at this time there was only 3. There's like 6 of them now, but there was only 3 at the time, so they played all 3 in order. And I remember I recorded that shit, and I still have it. I actually still have it. It's probably about 17, 18 years old, this fucking bootleg VHS, but I still got that shit.
I remember doing that all the time when I was young, just recording stuff off of the TV. I still have a few of mine, some TV movies and stuff. Like I was really into like killer snakes and shit. I would record a lot of the TV movie killer rattlesnake movies and stuff, even though they weren't like, like mega snake. They were just like literally rattlesnakes. But I used to record those all the time. What about you, Moods? You want to throw out one of your favorites?
I guess we didn't really touch on Dawn of the Dead. Like, one of my favorite movies, everybody knows me for Dawn of the Dead, but like Maniac, I talk about Maniac a lot too, the original one from 1980. It's my favorite slasher film of all time. I love that movie, man. I love Joe Spinell's character. It's such a dark fucking movie, man. It's not a comedy, it's a real fucking type of slasher. Everything about that movie, the structure of it, just the creepiness, the effects are brilliant. I mean, Tom Savini does gives himself one of the best deaths I've ever seen in a horror movie in my life.
Mhm.
You know, the shotgun blast to the head is like one of the best ways to go out, and he must have had so much fun doing that to
Yeah.
himself. But you know, there's so many memorable scenes, but it's you know, it's Joe Spinell's character. You know, he's brilliant, he's dark, he's vicious. You know, he's at the same time kind of oddly likable. You know, it's something about the movie I can watch over and over again, and I never get sick of it. It's really weird.
I'm not going to hurt you. I'm going to kill you.
Yeah, he's likable in this weird, creepy way. I don't know. It's really weird. Maybe because I've seen it so many times, I don't know. But
Yeah.
anybody else got any words?
Well, I've
Yeah,
actually.
I love Maniac. I got the I had the VHS for the longest time. That's actually how I discovered the movie. Before I got into the internet and started collecting big, it was actually one of the first VHSs I picked up when I started buying horror VHSs. And I think I can't even remember where I got it. I think I actually ordered it. I ordered a box one time of like 150 VHS off of eBay, like
Holy hell.
9-10 years ago. And yeah, after I got that kind of started my collecting, roughly 10-12, yeah, about 10 years ago. And ever since then, I mean, that and Mother's Day were two of the first ones that I really remember really enjoying it. And the Maniac movie, man, just everything about it was so good, from the music to the character to the acting to the plot. I mean, just the character himself is what made the movie. Frank Zito makes that fucking movie.
Oh man, he
Yeah.
really does. He was the shit, man.
Yeah, it's just so amazing. I mean, a really, really enjoyable film. And, I mean, even though this is a little off topic, but the remake as well. I actually really, really enjoyed the Maniac remake. I thought it was absolutely phenomenal. Elijah Wood stars in the remake, and it's very dark. It nods to the original. The music is even better. I'll say the music's actually better than the original, and I really enjoyed the original soundtrack for the original one, but the remake soundtrack is absolutely phenomenal. It's a score, not a soundtrack. It's not a mix of songs. It's actually composed songs for that specifically. So really, really enjoy that one. Just an absolute masterpiece. Just like the original, like I said, I love the original as well. So yeah, great film, great choice.
Word.
I gotta see that remake, man. I've been hearing nothing but good things, and I've been hearing
Yeah,
lots
I
of.
heard a lot of
Everyone
good
always
things.
talks about the soundtrack in that movie, which I'm really intrigued by. So yeah, I don't know. I do like, from what I've heard about the POV and stuff. I think that's a really cool aspect. It really kind of changed it around, so that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, the POV is actually done really well. It's a little disorienting in the beginning, but you get used to it. It gives it a new tone, though. It really does. It gives a new tone to the film, and it adds a little bit of atmosphere that previously wasn't there, in my opinion. I'm not saying it's better than the original or anything like that, because honestly, I'm very on the fence with it, which is actually a good thing to say because it shows how good the original and the remake are. Because
I can see a future versus video by Clive Craven right now.
Yeah,
The original
that'll actually
Maniac
that-
remake.
that will definitely happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, another film that I absolutely love, and JP will highly agree with me on this one, is Dream Warriors. Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3 is another movie that, when I think of the franchise, I immediately think of Part 3. I mean, I actually prefer it over I love the original Nightmare on Elm Street. I love the dark aspect to it. I love Freddy in that movie. He's just so badass and freaky. The movie's shot well. But Part 3, I don't know, man. It has every element that I want. The comedy's not over the top in it. The characters are so likable, like with Kincaid and, just that whole powers that they create them for themselves in the film. It really works. And the asylum setting is fucking brilliant. And cool, fun effects. I mean, it has one of the most memorable deaths that I can think of in a film, and it's I always think of the puppet death. When Freddy's using the dude as a puppet, he's got his veins up there, and he cuts his, and he falls off the building. It's just brilliant, but awesome soundtrack by Dawkins. Can't go wrong with that, 80s hair metal. But yeah, it's just an all-around amazing film with so much replay value. I remember watching that shit pretty much when it first came out, and I still look at the movie the exact same way, and that's what an awesome movie does. It never gets old.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure, for sure. Elm Street 3 was definitely one that I would for sure choose. The core concept to that movie as a sequel just works so well. Like you said, in the asylum, you have the last of the Elm Street kids. They all have these Dream Warrior powers, which is a cool idea in itself. Also, like you said, the deaths are some of the most iconic in the series. You have Freddy, who is at that perfect mixture of the comedy with still being creepy and dark and scary, and characters Kincaid, Nancy returns, Heather Langenkamp, and it's just yeah, it's the perfect Elm Street sequel, and I'm with you. I prefer it over the original also.
Definitely.
What
I
about you,
gotta
Clive?
say, I was waiting to chime in. Uh, okay. I like part three. I actually really like part three. In fact, part three for me is probably my second favorite out of the franchise. But the original, I love the original so much. For me,
Oh,
it's
I
got
thought
to be the
Clyde was going to
original.
say Freddy's Dead was his favorite one.
Jesus Christ, no. But you know what? I actually really do like Freddy's Dead, and Freddy's Dead for me probably is up in the top 3 or 4. Honestly,
Really,
I really do
really.
like
Wow.
it. I really like it because of the fucking ridiculous deaths. One of my favorite is the scene where dude gets pulled into the video game and he
Yes.
gets slaughtered in the game.
That's
That
like what
kill
everybody
is
hates.
so
I can't.
fucking
It's
awesome. I
actually.
love it.
Now I'm playing with
Oh.
power.
I hate when Freddy's sitting there and he's got his legs up on the desk and he's like playing video games. I'm just like, what have they done to this franchise?
That,
ridiculous.
you're right. That
Like,
scene
I
right
Oh,
there.
it's so ridiculous.
That is
I
just
love
over
it.
the top, man. It's on a different planet.
You forgot
It
the
is
power
ridiculous.
glove.
It is.
Power Glove,
Now we're
man.
playing with power. I fucking love it. Oh, it's so
I
good.
actually prefer Freddy's Dead over Moods. You know this over Part 5. Part 5 is the worst to me. I think everybody gives Part 2 a ridiculous hard time. It's actually
I gotta
pretty
say
good.
though, I absolutely love part two. For some weird reason, I just love it. Just I don't know.
Yeah.
Everyone's so likable in
I
it.
like part 2. I
I've
don't
always,
dislike
I've
it.
always stated like part two is so disappointing to me because I absolutely love the opening scene on the bus. You know that whole sequence is amazing, and then the movie just totally takes a 180. You know, in the original storyline, like the way Fred, like the whole storyline, and I'm just like, what? It's so fucked up to me that that happened in the film.
There's
But
some points in that movie I don't get, like when I forget Jesse when he goes to the nightclub or the bar. That I like. Where does that come into the story? And then he meets the gym teacher and he forces him at like 5 a.m. to do laps around the gym.
It's
Oh,
just
man.
ridiculous.
I know.
But no, I think a lot of people's problem with Part 2 is just simply that it doesn't follow the rules of the rest of the franchise. But I think a lot of
exactly
people
what it is.
also forget that it was the first sequel and the rules weren't really established yet. I mean,
Hmm.
they was trying to make it to where Freddy is kind of dead, but he's trying to get resurrected. It almost seems like he wants to live again, and through Jesse's body is how he's trying to do that. And there's some dark stuff in there, like he's trying to make him kill his sister and shit. And
I thought the shit with Grady was crazy when he killed like his best
Yeah.
friends.
I love that part.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's good aspects to the film, but when I do a Nightmare on Elm Street ranking, it always seems to rank really low on my list. I love 1, 3, and 7 so much that it's just
Now 7 is Wes Craven's New Nightmare, right?
Yeah.
It's
All
like
right,
a little
see,
bitchy kid
that
from
one-
Full House.
I don't know, man. I like it, but at the same time, things annoy me about it. Once again, just like in Part 5, I don't like the kid. The kid gets
The
on my
little,
nerves.
the little bitchy brat from Full House.
I
Is
was
it-
thinking about it after JP when we were talking about that, and I was like, you know what? Come to think of it, I don't like that little kid either. Fuck that little kid.
Yeah, man. I don't know what's up. The kids in the Elm Street series get on my nerves.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's fucking great.
All right, what else do I got I got another movie here. I got a couple here we could probably talk about, but original Fright Night. The reason this movie for me is totally made not as I mean it definitely is a nostalgic thing for me. It's the movie that got me into horror movies. My dad was actually a big horror movie fan, and brought this movie home back in, I guess it probably would have been like late 85, 86 when it got released on VHS or whatever the fuck we rented on back in the day. But that was the very first horror film that I ever remember watching, and that shit literally gave me nightmares for like 2 years. Because, being a 5-year-old kid, I didn't realize that it was actually meant to be like a horror comedy. I couldn't manufacture that, so that shit scared the hell out of me. But yeah, that's a great film, man. I like the characters, man. All the characters are memorable in that one. Great vampire, fucking awesome soundtrack, great score. Just everything about that movie is just so memorable for me.
Yeah, Fright Night for me is not one that I go to straight away. Normally I would go to like The Lost Boys for my vampire, which is my favorite vampire film. But yeah, I do like Fright Night. It's just I've only seen it a few times, and it's not one that I grew up on, so I never really got into it that much. I know you don't, but I actually like the remake.
That I didn't see yet, so I have to check that
I haven't seen the remake of that yet either.
I know people have seen me shred that movie to bits on my channel before, but then I'm a little biased against it already because I fucking hate Colin Farrell as an actor, and just the original movie meaning so much to me because it's literally the movie that got me into horror movies, right? And then seeing Colin Farrell as a vampire, yeah, I pretty much dry heaved about 30 times.
One of the things I like most about the original Fright Night is his horror host buddy, because the horror hosts are so cool. I love that thing that they don't do really anymore. But I just love the idea of like this kid went and got the horror host guy to help him, and in the remake that's something that they took in a whole different direction.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, I always liked like Evil Ed in the original film is just so awesome.
Yeah, Stephen
crazy.
Jeffries. I think.
Yeah, Stephen Jeffries, man. Yeah, we all know what happened to that guy later on in the career.
Yeah.
I won't talk about that, but his character is just so memorable. I love it. And,
what else was he in? He was in 976 Evil. Was he in anything else?
Besides gay porno?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Oh, wait, is Evil Ed that same one where the producer or editor is asking where's the squirrel testicle mutilation scene? That kind of rings a bell to me.
I have no idea.
I'm not sure actually.
I know it's something about an editor or something like that doing all these ridiculous horror movies, but I don't know. I've heard somebody talk about that scene that's always struck out in my mind, so I definitely have to check that one out.
Yeah, the horror host in the movie was Peter Vincent, right? Was the character's name?
Vincent, what was it? Vincent Price and Peter Cushing. They used.
Yeah, that's totally how they put the name together, and I thought that was brilliant. That really worked for me because the show that he was playing, or the show that he inside the movie, was like this old black and white kind of deal, and it's just right straight from what they were doing back in the day. I thought that's a brilliant thing. Obviously, I had no idea when I was first watching this, not until years later. But that's a really cool aspect of the film. Jerry Dandridge being just such a cool ass vampire, man. Fuck, he's just so suave. Yeah, I used that word.
Yeah.
That's one suave ass vampire.
Yeah, just so many memorable things, and one thing that people always kind of don't mention about the film is the soundtrack. I think the soundtrack's brilliant. That one.
The soundtrack does me, but the thing that I like about the film is it has that Disturbia type of vibe to it. That's a film comparing it to where his neighbor is up to something. I like that. I like it done in The Burbs. I like that aspect of the neighbor up to something not so good and kind of spying on him and stuff. I like that plot point in movies.
Word.
Yeah, definitely. You know what, The Burbs, now that you bring it up, that's a classic movie too, man. I love The Burbs.
Yeah, I gotta really grab that one. I love the
Yeah, I,
bugs.
I only have a bootleg of that, sadly.
Well, I guess I'll throw out, my favorite horror film, and that's the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Um, it's so good. I remember when I first seen it, I rented it and Phantasm, not it, but
Oh my
Texas
fucking
Chainsaw Massacre and Phantasm on VHS back when I was a kid. Brought it home. Still, that's one of my favorite memories of video store renting back at, which is a whole nother topic, video stores and how I miss them. But Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the moment when the hitchhiker gets in the van and it's just you just know something's up with this dude. And as a kid, I remember stopping the VHS tape, taking a breather, walking around my room a bit, pressing play again. It was so intense for me as a young kid, and I guess it's always kind of been my favorite horror film, but I never really thought of it as that until I got on YouTube and really thought of what my favorite horror film is. And the most thing that I think what it really comes down to is the fact that the film is like the true definition of a horror film. It's what I think of when I think of a horror film.
Yeah. Funny what you said about having the experience as a kid. My kid experience is probably a little similar. It was probably when the remake just came out, and my old next door neighbor was telling me on a school bus, like, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it's like based on a true story. And at the time, I saw like these pretty weird movies. I could just imagine some dude just like in like the ending credits, like the live, she's like, and there's live footage at the end. I just imagine this guy just running up to people in a crowd, just like buzzing them with a chainsaw. And I would look in the video store, I would find nothing on it. And I was obviously young, and my parents were like absolutely not. But then I just remember it always play on that channel, Fuse, all the time. It would always be on that channel, and I would look, and I would always sneak downstairs, and I would always go to it right when either the dinner scene was happening or the chase was happening. And ever since there, I've been absolutely hooked. And then when I found about part two, like being banned from television, that absolutely got me drawn in. I think it was, I don't remember what channel it was originally played on, but I stayed up watching that all night, and that creeped me out worse than the original by far. Just
Part
the
2 was
fact
banned
of
from television?
it was for a while, ever since its release, it was like not allowed to play on television.
Which one, part 2?
Yeah,
Was the movie-
it's still not allowed to be played in some countries on TV, but since that release, it had like 2 days on maybe Spike TV. But ever since then, I've never seen it play again on like HBO, or even I've never
Come to
seen it
think
play
of
on
it,
TV.
I don't think I've ever seen part 2 on TV.
It was like it was one of the music channels, like MTV or VH1, one of them. I just remember hearing about it, and I was like, holy shit, I finally have to watch this. But that one gave me the worst nightmares compared to the original by far.
Yeah, I love part 2 too. I don't really know about it. It's the only film that I have the hardest time explaining to people why I think it's gold, and I can never really figure out why. But what do you guys think of the first one?
I love it.
It's honestly the example of a movie that doesn't understand, well, it doesn't realize that it could have been a cult classic. Well, I'm speaking over that. It's a movie that they just shot pretty much for fun. You know, Toby Hooper, he had to shoot a movie, and he came up with this. And from there, not knowing years later it would turn out to be this huge cult classic and this huge trend with sequels and shitty remakes to come. So it's amazing, like,
One of
how
my
that
favorite
moved off
aspects
the
of the
ground.
movie- Yeah, one of my favorite aspects of the movie is that, after Toby Hooper was done filming the movie, he thought it was shitty, like shitty shot, like, because he didn't realize that like how he was filming it was actually like a really good technique and that it worked and stuff. I thought that was
He
really
came up with
interesting.
some amazing camera angles, especially under the swing or whatever, and even on the like DVD, the cinematographer was like, "No, we can't do that. That's not in the script." And he's like, "Screw the script. We're doing this scene."
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and that's
Yeah, there
on
was-
like every remake of Texas Chainsaw. You see that that swing scene. So it was amazing what they did with that.
And just even using the cheapest possible film that they could find too,
Yeah,
and that
like
turned out to be
8mm
such an
film or
amazing
something.
aspect of the film. Yeah, just it turned out to be such an amazing aspect of the film. It adds so much character to the film, and it's brilliant, man. It just turned out so well.
Yeah, well, even people
One of the
say
things
that it. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, one of the things that always stuck out to me about that movie is, if you watch the documentaries and the behind the scenes on it, a lot of the conditions they filmed in were crazy. Like the
Oh,
heat was
yeah.
insane, the smell was
There was
insane.
rotting food left on the table,
Hours.
and Toby Hooper was like,
Yeah.
"Don't touch that. We need that for next week." Next week it comes back and it's rancid. The whole house smells. Gunnar Hansen, it said in the Marilyn Burns said in the commentary, Gunnar Hansen absolutely reeked of head cheese and just bad meat and all that. So it was obviously not good for them.
Yeah, well, a lot of people say that it does have that, documentary feel to it, and going back to the filming a bit, it definitely has like a lot of glare and stuff, and I think that's what causes people to think that it has that documentary feel to it.
I don't see that. I really don't see the documentary feel of it.
Really?
Yeah, for some reason, I've tried thinking about it, but for those movies that say, maybe besides Cannibal Holocaust, but for those movies saying it sort of looks like a documentary, I really don't see it.
Well, I tell you one of the reasons why I think it gets that rap, and then this is an obvious one. There's no music. It's one of the few movies you'll ever see. There's no fucking music. The whole movie, it's just
besides maybe the sound of people taking pictures and the chainsaw buzzing. That's pretty much it.
There's no soundtrack to that movie because didn't Toby Hooper say they couldn't afford anybody to actually put some music into it?
No, I think the distributors wouldn't want it, and the distributors for the original was like, on the documentary, he said there were these like guys from the mafia or something like that, and they were real. I'm not even kidding. He said like they were mob bosses, and they were really uptight in what they would put out and what would be on it. So, and he had a hard time dealing with that.
That's crazy.
So they had a thing against putting music into a movie. That's really odd.
I guess you didn't want to see Leatherface going around and hearing music playing in an Italian restaurant, so. Maybe that's what it was.
I totally thought it was a budget thing because I know that movie was made like on a shoestring budget, so I just figured that, we can't afford to pay someone to put a score together, so fuck it, we're not going to put one in.
Yeah.
All you're going to hear is screams the entire movie. That movie has a lot of screams. That's a cool score though, really.
Yeah.
But not only has Leatherface went on to be like such a huge icon, that the core idea for that film has been overused so many times, and it's an idea that still works. People get lost in the middle of nowhere, and there's some crazy cannibal family out there. Like stuff like House of a Thousand Corpses seems like they took the template for that film and just did the exact same type of stuff.
Yeah. One thing I've noticed recently, in probably about every Chainsaw movie, you could almost see Leatherface not being the main antagonist. In the first one, it's more of Drayton or the hitchhiker. The second one, Chop Top. Third one being one of the guy with the robotic. Oh wait, no, that's part 4. One of those crazy cannibal guys. Next Generation, obviously Matthew McConaughey. The remakes, then R. Lee Ermey, and then 3D. I forget his name, one of the sheriffs, but it almost seems like he's a backup in a way, not really being the main antagonist.
And I kind of like that about it because it adds more of a he's more scarier that he's not the he just comes out and like kills people. You know what I mean? But I really like the cook. In the first 2 films, the characters are great. The family. I think in the third one and on is when they started going down. Except for in the remake, I love R. Lee Ermey.
R. Lee Ermey's fantastic. Everything he did was fantastic.
Also, even the very beginning with the open narration and stuff, I love that.
I gotta say that for me, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise as a whole is probably one of my most favorite franchises and most consistent. Even 3 and 4. I liked, and both the remakes I liked, or the prequel and the remake, I should say. But the one that just came out, Texas Chainsaw, was not a big fan of that. I mean, to me, that's
Great
the worst one in the
songs.
franchise.
I,
But I actually like 3 and 4. And 4 I really like, honestly. I think Next
Four,
Generation,
I can get
I
away
know
with
people
4.
hate it,
I
but I
hate
love it.
four.
I
Only
love
people.
the fucking weirdness. It's so strange.
It
The
has that
characters are
90s
so
vibe,
weird.
and it's so
See,
awesome.
I think people say it's so strange, but really what it is so stupid.
It kind of seems like a movie. It
It's an
seems like a
oddball
movie
film.
that almost doesn't have a script. You see people just running around in this house, hitting
It's
each
just
other.
silly.
Leatherface acting like a little girl, and
Yeah,
it seems like it's
The whole government
unscripted
thing.
totally. It really
I
seems
hate
that
Part
way.
4. I think the newest one is way better than Part 4. I think the newest one is not great, but it's definitely not as bad as everybody says.
The newest
it
one
is.
has a lot of flaws, and I know a lot of people can't. Like we talked about this before with the whole timeline thing.
Yeah.
If you just kind of not think about the whole timeline thing, because everybody knows Chainsaw came out in '74. And this is like supposed to be.
Honestly, I don't understand why people are so, thrown off by the timeline thing. It really doesn't matter. It's
No.
not a huge part of the
Yeah, I
film.
don't notice it really.
Mm.
I just
Like, we all know the
ignore it.
timeline's wrong, but so
The
what?
timeline thing wasn't the thing that turned me off to the movie. What turned me off to it is the first 10 minutes is the most pitiful display and use of Bill Moseley I've ever seen in a film.
Yeah,
It's
because
so fucking
he didn't do
ridiculous.
good.
And-
I
and
think
they-
Bill Moseley did
surprised me.
terrible.
And they
Why
and
they
they
do that?
have him in this fucking real clean cut outfit, and just everybody in the house looks real, and just I like the idea of how it starts off. I thought that was really fucking cool that it looked just like the end of the first one, and it was like exact continuation. I like that idea. But then when we get to the house and they show the characters in the house, it was just like instant loss of interest.
I do
it seemed
agree.
way too clean.
I like the
I
fact
do-
this one, the third one, the 3D, Leatherface is so much more violent than any of the other movies. I mean, you see him running around hitting people. He's
He
growling
looks like
the
an
whole
old,
time.
pissed off man.
He's this is probably the most violent version of Leatherface next to Part 2. That's
But
one thing I really like. People
what,
are
if
trying to
you-
grab him and he's pushing them against the wall, growling, screaming. That's one thing I really loved about that movie.
But they could have made it. They could have made it even better. I know me and JP talked about this, but the carnival scene.
Yeah.
They didn't have apparently they didn't
missed
have that much
opportunity,
money
man.
for that. They wanted
Yeah.
to saw the little jigsaw kid in half.
They could
They
have went.
said because of budget reasons, they couldn't do it.
They could have went balls to the wall and made Leatherface just start hacking up fucking people everywhere in that.
I
would've
know
been
they could have got the
That
budget
would've
for
been
that.
just
They could have not
nuts.
made it 3D.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what is the point? I don't understand it. This is supposed to be a direct sequel to the first movie, but it's marketed as Texas Chainsaw 3D. But it sounds like it's like Part 3, D, that type of gimmick that they got going on.
I would have absolutely loved during the whole thing. You just see Chop Top coming back from Vietnam. I don't know if you'd heard the backstory of Chop Top, but
Yeah.
he got the plate while he was in Vietnam. I would have loved to see him just come home and just
So
be like,
loud.
"What the fuck is going on here?"
Hey, Bill
Hmm.
Moseley could have played him too.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
He wanted to, but he was just like, "I'm doing whatever these guys say.
I think
if they
he
say
did
no,
terrible
then no."
as Drayton. He didn't have the personality of Drayton at all.
They put him as Drayton mainly because of his connection with Jim Cito in the second one. They wanted him to do it mainly because of their relationship, and he eventually said in a Family Portrait Revisited, "If we ever do a remake and somebody's casted to play Drayton, I hope it's me." So I guess that's really where he got the act as Drayton.
I agree on paper. It sounds good. I was like, hell yeah, Bill Moseley could definitely pull that off. But it just seemed like he didn't do anything. He was just there, said a few lines, and that was it. Like, he didn't have any of the characteristics.
He was there to sell tickets. That's all it was.
I don't like how
Yeah.
they
Get
didn't
some
use that
of
much
us
of
old school
Maryland.
fans in the theater. Bring in the new cats, and that's why Trey Songz. The best thing about the movie was having Trey Songz in the movie.
That's what got it #1 movie of the week or whatever.
This is what it was. Trey Songz was there appealing to all the younger crowd, the newer TCM fans, and Bill Moseley was there to bring to get our fucking fat asses in the theater
Yeah.
seats. You know, that's pretty much what it was. You know, that's the way I look at it.
I thought Gunnar Hansen's cameo was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, he was just
hearing
chilling
him
there.
talk for
that
once
works
was
for us
definitely
too.
cool.
You know? But you know, the younger generation's like, who the fuck is Gunnar Hansen?
I didn't like one thing.
I am the
Oh,
young
go ahead.
generation. What are you talking about?
No, like younger kids, like young kids. that are
My generation, pretty much.
I mean,
I think me and you were the same generation almost.
One
I
thing
guess
I
so.
really didn't like was the fact that they barely used Marilyn Burns. They shot more with her, but they didn't use it.
I didn't even. Where was she?
At the very end, there was a shot of her writing the letter to fuck, I don't remember her name, but there was
Yeah.
also a scene in the deleted scenes where Leatherface was
See, I
carrying
didn't
her
even get
corpse to her grave. They definitely could have used that.
I didn't get the Blu-ray yet, but
Yeah.
no, I agree with Clyde though. I think the whole thing had so much potential, and the main thing is it just didn't deliver. But I think that people were so I don't really know. I think people just hated a bit too much. I don't know. I think it's all right.
And now they're going off with the idea of a sequel coming for next summer. So
do they have like a potential storyline for the second one? Because I'm interested. In, like, you know, we all know how it ends.
Well,
you know, I won't really say anything if there's people watching and haven't seen it, but like the way it ends is just bizarre. You know.
yeah, it was, but I think they was really going for that like family vibe of it.
like what the Saw is, not that, but the Saw is family, I guess, in a sort of
Yeah,
way.
pretty much. You know, the whole because it always has been a really family-oriented group of killers.
Yeah.
I don't get that branded thing. The brand thing was the weirdest thing in the whole movie. Like, I had no idea why everyone was branded with the Sawyer logo. That's one thing that really threw me off.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is kind of confusing a little
Yeah,
bit.
it is a
but-
little strange. I didn't even notice that. I mean, I noticed the logos, but I mean, I guess I didn't really think about it too much of why they had them.
Yeah.
I wonder what they're going to do now, because you saw, I'm not going to give away the ending, but you saw the ending, so I really don't know, after technically, the real villain is taken out, what that sheriff is going to be thinking now, so that's one thing I'm interested in seeing, where he's just like, clean this shit up and he leaves.
Well, I do want to say one thing real quick about potential sequels. Is I know that they announced right away that, you know, hey, we have, you know, up to 6 opportunities to make, you know, 6 more sequels. But after they posted that, you know, like a week later, they came out and said there's nothing happening right now. You know, we're not moving ahead with something right now. We're going to take our time with it and blah 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 blah. So I think as of right now, there's not even a script.
All they said was summer of 2014, be ready for Chainsaw 4. That's all I really heard.
I'll tell you what. I'll be honest. I don't mind another Chainsaw movie. I don't mind seeing sequels. You know, I've stated this before in many videos. I actually do not mind sequels at all. What I
love
do
them.
mind is when they fucking are butchered by these new age shitty directors that think, you know what it is? Do you know what it really is that fucking ruined the sequel? Is these fucking directors say, okay, you're gonna give me the chance to do a movie in a mega franchise. Of course they're gonna snap at the opportunity. But then you get these fucking green directors that have got 1 or 2 movies under their belts, and they're supposed to live up to the expectations of filming a movie that's part of a epic franchise. I mean, it makes no fucking sense.
Well, hold up one second. I kind of agree with that, but wasn't a lot of the, you know, 80s sequels, like the Friday the 13th and stuff, weren't they done by a lot of guys who really didn't do anything else, and they would just come in, direct
Yeah.
one, and it kind of
Honestly, I
started
believe
their
it more has
career?
to do with I believe it has more to do with like the screenplay, you know, the actual story of the film.
Yeah.
Fuck,
It's
I mean,
the writer.
when you look at it, like, you could have a top-notch director, like, you know, just anybody, a Carpenter, a fucking Craven, you know, anybody, and they can make the worst movie. If your script is shitty, that's what they're working with. You know, if they don't have any control over it, they're like, hey, here's your fucking script, make your movie. And then it turns out like The Ward.
Yeah.
I haven't seen The Wood, but
But I'm using that example. I don't think
Yeah.
The Ward's a terrible movie. I just found it too predictable, but that's a John Carpenter film, and he's done a lot better. That's my point. I didn't find that script
Yeah.
was good, at all. And some people disagree with me. I know there's fans of that movie, but it's just an example.
Word.
Okay, so Steve, you want to hit us with some of your favorites, man? You're up
Sure,
next.
of course. Mine are obviously way different. I mean, when I say different, I mean very, very different. I guess you all know me for being the independent filmmaker I am, making my first feature right now, but I gotta hand it to you. The super, super no budget independent shot on video films from the 80s are probably, they're not the best. I say they're not the best, but they're probably my favorite in the fact that they give me the driving force to make that movie. And the ones they are probably Cannibal Campout, Wood Chipper Massacre, Splatter Farm, and Video Violence by far.
So pretty much everything that's been released on Camp Motion Pictures?
Not really everything Camp Motion Picture. I gotta say, Shakarama, they have a few ones, Zombie 90, Violent Shit 3, VCI for Blood Cult and Revenge, and I think The Ripper with Tom Savini, I think that might have been shot on video, but all those ones,
Bloodbath.
yeah. But I don't know, like, and even on the DVDs, they have the best special features, and special features are pretty much like telling you what we did, and we used the simplest shit you could find. We used stuff from the supermarket and just put it together, like saying if they did that, then we can do it too. And for the fact that they're pretty much not doing much anymore, they're so easy to come in contact. I mean, hell, I'm good friends with John McBride to this day, so that's one thing I love about those movies.
Yeah, the only one of those that I've seen that you mentioned was the Wood Chipper Massacre one.
Yeah. But I don't know, just the shot on video fact of it, it reminded me of something I've seen. The quality of it reminded me of something I've seen in science class in first grade, these no budget science tutorials of like how photosynthesis works. That's the one thing that got my attention when I first saw Wood Chipper. So, and then I keep watching one by one, and like even though they were bad, they were good in a way that the acting sucked, the screenwriting was awful, but the gore and the effects were probably some of the best compared to, the shit being released today. So those definitely are probably my favorites in general. Other ones are probably like mainstream, probably Child's Play. Definitely because of the experience I had with Child's Play the first time.
Yeah, Child's Play is a good one. I love the part when Andy's mom first finds out about Chucky and he starts tripping out and cussing at her.
Well, the way I found out about Chucky, I was walking out of a movie with my dad a long time ago, and then they had that big poster for Seed of Chucky, and I was just like wondering what the hell this is. You see Chucky and Tiffany, and I had no clue what it was. And then I asked like my mom, and she was like, "Don't you dare ever bring that up. That doll scares the shit out of me." And eventually one day I went to Blockbuster with my buddy, and I saw all of them lined up on the shelves, and just looking at them and reading it, I slept over his house. The fucking power went out, and I was just thinking about those images I saw on the boxes, and it scared the absolute shit out of me. So I guess because of the backstory, that's gotta probably be my #1 mainstream favorite horror movie.
Yeah, I actually like
You looking
Child's
for?
Play franchise all the way up to the third one. Part
Yeah, I'm
4
with
and
you.
5, Seed and
Bride.
Pride. I'm not too big on those. I'm looking forward to the new remake though, or reboot, or whatever it's supposed
It's
to
a
be. I
sequel.
think it's supposed to be a
It's
yeah
supposed to be a
sequel to Part
sequel.
3 or something.
Yeah, they pretty much say that Tiffany and Glenn never happened.
I think
Yeah.
that's a good thing.
Does
It would
anybody
be
know if there's
interesting
any
to
mention of Andy in it?
No, we was talking about that the other night though, and
still
definitely
have-
interested to see if there is a mention. I really hope that there is, just a little mention.
It's said in the Wikipedia, like it was supposed to be a lot darker and a lot more violent than any of the other sequels.
Have you seen the trailer?
I have, I have.
It
It's
definitely looks dark again, but
He
Hmm.
looks different too. It seems
he
like he has
does.
longer hair. His eyes are almost like baggy and bloodshot-ish in a way.
His
mouth
mouth
is
is too
open.
wide open.
Yeah. Um, I'm happy that Dal Mancini's doing it. That's one thing I love. But
Yeah, well, he did all of them though, didn't
yeah,
he?
exactly.
Yeah, well, he fucked
What
up with
one thing
Saving
I'm really
Chucky.
hoping for is like two and three, they had the openings where they were making the guy dolls. That's one thing I really, because you saw in part three Chucky getting blown apart by the fan. I would
Yeah,
just love to see the intro being the good guy dolls being made again. That's one
yeah.
thing I really hope.
I don't know. It's pretty low budget, so I don't know what they would be able to do on a scale wise because they usually have it in like a big factory with like mass produced good guy dolls and stuff. So uh, yeah, I'm interested to see how it opens and if they mention any of the previous events.
Yeah. The story, though, I read a little bit about the story, not too much, but I really wish they would bring Alex Vincent or even get say Andy in a way. Even kill him
Yeah,
off.
I think
Even
we all
just
want
killing him
that.
off in a way. That would be pretty cool.
Hmm.
Something almost like what they did in what's it called? Halloween Resurrection when they finally kill
No
off
Halloween.
Jamie. Just hear me out, hear me out. The way they killed Jamie Lee Curtis and pretty much saying, "Okay, we're moving on." Doing that
Yeah,
to Alex Vincent or somebody to play Andy, that would be something kind of interesting. Kind of, Chucky's moved on to a new breed, pretty much, trying to find a new person to pass his soul into.
yeah. Well, we was talking about this too. It looks like the main character is a girl, so I'm wondering
Mhm.
what the hell Chucky's doing because he's not gonna want to transfer his soul into a girl. So he has to have some kind of different motives to be involved with this family.
Mhm.
Yeah, Resurrection sucks though.
Yeah, I really didn't care for that either. Just the one scene with Jamie Lee.
Yeah,
That.
that was a good scene, but it almost felt like a waste because the ending scene in H2O was like perfect. And if they was gonna, do what they did, they should have just did it in H2O.
That would have made a lot more sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta revisit those movies actually. The last couple of Halloween films, 6, 7, and 8. Yeah,
Oh,
I got them, but I haven't seen them in a while.
I really want to see that producer's cut of six. That's the one thing I've been
well,
trying
that
to.
I actually wanted to mention something about that really quick. I talked to Justin Beam, who is somehow involved with Scream Factory. He was doing a double feature community night last Saturday, and I asked him about what's up with Halloween 6, the producer's cut, and he said he'd been trying to get Echo Bridge to loosen their grip on it for a long time, and it doesn't seem like they want to. So I just thought I'd throw that in there,
Really,
which
Echo
sucks
Bridge
because
is
I
a good
really want to
move on
see
that.
that.
It's there's definitely bootlegs out of there, but from what I've seen and from what I've shown you, I remember you asking me a while back if they had any bootlegs out. But the bootlegs, they're like people rack them up to like 40, 50
Yeah,
dollars. It's absolutely. There's one website I know of. They sell a whole bunch of these either bootlegs or I don't remember what they call them, but they had a Halloween 6, Texas Chainsaw 3 in there. So that's one thing I want to really get down to see is the producer's cut, just to see like what they were thinking with the whole stone thing at the end. Freezing Michael Myers and this weird,
Mhm.
stone ending.
yeah, that movie has a really messed up storyline from the producer's cut, and they're like completely different movies
I don't
Yeah,
from what I
understand
hear.
like why they made Michael Myers be like the breed of some cult. I mean, it was not the first two movies. You never saw the thorn on his wrist, so like
Yeah, I think it
I don't
comes
remember
down
his
to
name, but Mustafa, the director of
Mustafa
it.
Akkad.
Yeah,
He's the,
Mustafa
he's the
Akkad.
producer, I
I
believe.
The one thing I
Yeah,
will
he's
credit him
excellent.
with is getting Danielle Harris to play Jamie, even though the character was really not needed, but also getting Donald Pleasance to come back.
Well, wait, Danielle Harris in part 6?
No, I don't. The first time I saw it, she looked kind of like Danielle Harris, but I didn't see her in like her portfolio or whatever for acting, but the first time I saw it, I thought it was her, but I think they
They
were
should have
shot.
got her back. They didn't want to pay her, so she talks about it in the documentary, I think. But they definitely should have had her back.
I
Yeah.
think she was a little young though to be
No, it was
sort of
same age. It was like 5 years
really.
later.
Oh
Yeah.
well, but yeah, the whole baby thing. What's his name? I think Paul Rudd was in that, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So being his first movie and being as dull as he was, that was weird to see him. He had no personality in that movie. He would just be like holding the baby. I'll never let anything happen to you. He's not even emotional. He's just saying it
Yeah.
in a
He
bland
was
voice.
creepy, man.
Yeah, he did do good, but now you see him in like 40-Year-Old Virgin, and
It's
this is
amazing where he's
40.
come,
Yeah,
where he's come from, man. Now he's in every like major blockbuster
every
comedy.
Judd Apatow comedy out there.
Awesome.
So you got any other ones, Steve, or?
Probably like most of what you said, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Just being the like one of the first horror movies I've seen. Halloween for actually being the first one I've seen. And I'm probably gonna get a lot of crap for this, but I grew up watching this. But Scream has
I
probably
love Scream.
I love Scream too, but just being that one movie where, I had to be that one kid at age 4 that imitated every line Ghostface would say on the phone, and eventually getting me grounded and banned from watching horror movies until I was maybe old enough to find out how to watch them on the internet. Because I would just, like, my sister would tell me, like, get out of my room. I would just imitate everything Ghostface would say, and that was pretty much it for me until I found out about the internet.
Yeah,
But
yeah. Scream is one of those movies that my generation. It was like the first big movie of my generation.
yeah,
1996 or something, and it just was so big. I remember everybody in school during the Halloween time wearing the ghost face masks and people calling each other saying, "What's your favorite scary movie?" And it was really like the first movie that I experienced that kind of like shook the world a bit, and it was everywhere. And
yeah,
I've always loved Scream for that reason. Like I grew up on the Elm Streets and the Jasons and stuff, but I never had my own generation's big horror icon like
yeah.
Ghostface.
I gotta admit though, part 3, when I
I
actually
hate Part
started,
3.
but I started learning about it and kind of learning about why they made it and, the whole connection between Roman and Maureen. That was kind of interesting at one point.
I like that. I just don't like the movie. Like
It
I
was
like it,
it was
but
probably the best suspense for who the killer is because in a lot of it you thought Kincaid was the killer for being obsessed with the whole case, having, Maureen Prescott's files in his desk and almost looking like he wants to kill Sidney. And then out of nowhere you see Roman, who you saw lying dead in a coffin, come out as being the killer. That was probably the best suspense you've seen in the Scream movies. I
oh
mean,
yeah, spoiler alert.
the first one you could see, of course, Billy is the killer, and then Stu out of nowhere, maybe Randy, who knows. But the second one, that's probably my least favorite out of all of them. The second one,
I like the first one, then the fourth one, second one, and third one. What do you guys think about Scream?
I'm a big fan of like I like the Scream films. It's actually to date the only franchise that I've seen all 4 films at the cinema.
That's
So it
awesome.
kind of holds a pretty cool spot with me. Yeah, I can't think of any other franchise that I've seen all of them, but yeah, I'll never forget when I've seen the first one because I think I'd only seen the trailer one time on TV, maybe not even the whole thing. And I went to go see it, and I was just blown away. Opening
yeah,
scene just had me like
That
I had
opening
goosebumps.
scene.
I thought it was a really good opening scene, and I was like, oh, so slasher films are kind of back now. Um, just a really fun film. I honestly, I'm not a big fan of Part 3 either. But I thought 4 was definitely a nice little resurrection for the franchise. I thought Wes
Yeah.
Craven did a good job with that. I thought it was really fun. The opening sequence or the opening scenes in Part 4, I thought were absolutely fucking hilarious.
Yeah,
It had me going, man. I was like, oh, this is gonna turn out to be pretty good. So, yeah, I don't mind the franchise, to be honest. I'm not overly a huge fan of, what do they call them? Neo slashers. I guess that's the subgenre.
what is that? I've never heard of that.
I've never heard of that either.
I hear the term all the time, and it's always related to, like, I guess it's Scream started this, this new trend of films, and it basically falls into like Scream films, the urban legend films. I Know What You Did Last Summer, like those type of slasher films. That
what, 90s slashers?
I guess, I don't know.
Scream 2 by far had the biggest 90s feel to it for some reason. I mean,
Scream kind of resurrected horror in the 90s. It was
Mhm.
kind of like dead a bit. And that opening scene, though, really quick, I think that's one of the best opening scenes in any horror film. I'm trying to think of other ones that top it.
I can't think of that, but out of
Yeah, it's up
the
there.
whole
It's a good beginning for the film for sure.
out of the whole series, I have to say probably the first one, then the fourth one, the third one, and the second one. The fourth one, I have no idea why, but finding out that Jill was the killer, I don't know.
Spoiler alert.
At first, yeah, my bad, everybody. But the first time I saw
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
Look at Steve. I think he's ruined like 3 out of the 4 movies right now.
The first time I saw her take that mask off, I don't know why, but I was just so shocked at seeing, her actually turn out to be the killer. It was just like I had to rewind it and like see it again for some reason. Now I kind of feel myself stupid as to think, okay, it's pretty obvious in a few parts, but I don't know. The first time watching it, it kind of blew me away, seeing Emma Roberts being like all those Nickelodeon shows and then turn out to be the big badass killer. It was just something that blew me out of the water.
Since we already spoiled the ending, I kind of don't like the ending in Part 4. That was like my biggest problem. I think that she should have got away with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it set off a new trend almost.
Better.
Well, she had to open her big mouth to Deputy Dewey.
Well, I pose a question for you guys. Do you think there'll be a Scream 5?
No.
There's already plans for that TV show, so...
Yeah, it's happening. They greenlit it. They already did the pilot, or they greenlit the pilot, but it's happening. MTV, guys.
I don't know where it's going to be taken
What
off
about an official movie, though? Do you guys think another movie will come?
Be doing the 5th one?
If there was a movie, Kevin Williamson or Wes Craven said it would take off right where Part 4 ended, so, there wouldn't be that much of a potential cliffhanger, if anything.
Now, let me give you a little tip. When directors say shit like that, if there was a Part 5, this is how it would take place. There's a Part 5 coming, basically, is what they're telling you.
Eventually, it's going to happen.
Well, Kevin Williamson...
He's writing for
Why
it.
wouldn't Wes Craven want to do a Part 5? I mean, that's really the
Because
best
it didn't do that well in the box office. You got to remember that.
Really?
Yeah, it was it wasn't great. It wasn't bad. It was sort of mediocre in a way. It didn't make that much money as the
It almost
original.
made its budget back in the opening weekend. Though. I think it made like 18 and the budget was 20. It did.
The
it
movie
didn't do
eventually
great, but
made
it
money,
did
though.
okay.
Yeah, of
or
course.
when you factor in DVD sales and stuff.
Yeah.
But what happened with Kevin Williamson left halfway through the thing. They kind of changed the script around a bit. It was a little bit different from what I gather. So he'll probably definitely. He already stated that he won't be back for another one. There was like creative differences or something like that. I can't really remember, but I think the film would have been a lot stronger if they used Kevin Williams' complete script. And from what I hear, I don't know if this is true, but this is a rumor. Kevin Williamson's script eventually, for his script for 5, or what he wanted to do with 5, eventually ended up being that TV show The Following. Do you guys know
Really?
anything about that?
I haven't heard about that, but
Have you seen The Following, anybody?
no.
No.
Well, quick little setup for it. It's basically a story of this top dog like serial killer who ended up convincing a bunch of other serial killers in the world to be in like a cult type, crazy underground network of serial killers. So that was kind of it. Kind of makes sense that would be something to do with the Scream series could have went that way.
There's been rumors going on since I believe or was in the works of being scripted, people were saying, this ought to end with either Sydney getting killed off in the beginning or her turning out to be the killer, saying, I've had enough of this bullshit, put an end to it.
Yeah, see, I wouldn't have liked that. I think that not killing off Sydney kind of, because I was expecting her to die, so I think it was a good thing that they didn't. But then again, maybe not. I don't know.
It would kind of be cool to see her finally take form of the killer, saying, this bullshit's gone far enough. I just want everything to end. Kill me right now. That would be the one thing I want to see. Nobody would expect it too. Dewey, what's her fucking name? Gail. They would never take it, so there'd obviously be more kills. So that might actually work.
Wes Craven said that he might do the TV show. He said if the script is solid enough, he'll be involved, but no word on that yet. So I don't think there'll be a part 5 unless it's spawned from the TV show.
Where's the TV show taking place? Is that after 4? Is that starting right?
I
from the
guess
beginning?
it's probably gonna be like one of those TV shows where it's in the town of Woodsboro and there's a bunch of other shit happening besides just the Ghostface killing.
That's gonna be weird. I don't
Yeah,
I don't
I'm
want
a
to
little
imagine
bit
that
hesitant
happening.
to get involved with that. But anyway, anything else about the same series?
Yeah, wasn't MTV all about music? When's Teen Wolf end? I thought this was music television, MTV Raps or MTV News. Now you have fucking
You know what's so
MTV
Teen
funny?
Wolf
Raps.
and all that. It's give me a break. you guys.
MTV hasn't been about music in a long time, man. It's all about everything else.
I don't
It's
even
all
think I was
about
alive
reality,
when it was for music.
It's
Yeah.
all about either reality TV, stunts, stand-up comedy, or Teen Wolf or Teen Mom or whatever you have.
I
MTV,
fucking hate Teen Mom and all that shit.
MTV surprised the fucking shit out of me. I know I showed these on videos or
Super
talked about
Psycho Sweet
my
16,
Super
right?
Psycho Sweet my Super Psycho Sweet 16. MTV produced slasher film. Now, when I first heard about this film, I fucking laughed. I was like, really? This is gonna be horrible. Just horrible. It's just I could not wrap my finger around it at all. And then completely forgot about it. And fucking Andrew Ballina actually did a review on the film and said he really liked it. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. MTV produced. I'm like, how could this possibly be any good? I checked it out, and the movie was nothing like what I thought. It is, it's a teen slasher film, but it was gory and actually really well done. And it just really threw me for a loop. And of course, they did 2 sequels, and it's really one big ass storyline. But in my
maybe they
opinion,
can do
I have
good
seen a
then.
lot worse. It's actually pretty decent, man. I watched all 3 in one night, so it felt like one big ass movie to me. But I would highly recommend checking out the first one, and just totally don't think of it as an MTV film. Just take it as a slasher film. It's fucking not bad. I don't know, man. It's really odd.
Well, if they did good with a slasher film, then maybe they could pull off a Scream slasher TV show.
Yeah, but it would obviously be a lot more tame, of course, for TV.
Yeah.
You would be surprised what they're doing on TV, though.
They're getting away with a lot now.
Has anybody seen the Big Hell series yet?
No.
I keep hearing
No,
you talk
not
about
yet.
it, but I've never seen. I can't watch TV these days. I'm too busy with other shit.
Well,
so.
the rape scene in that show, and
Wow.
I was like,
Based on Tell
it
plays
still
on.
seemed pretty hardcore for TV. A&E. It's a regular basic channel, I
Yeah.
think.
See, I could see the Scream series going a lot higher if they got a company like Spike or something like that that knows more about these horror icons and stuff like that. I mean, not really MTV.
Well, Scream never really was overly, violent and gory, if you kind of think about it, you know what I mean?
Even in the 4th one, they said the kills
I guess
have
it was
to be a
pretty
lot more
violent.
violent, but it really wasn't that violent. I think the
Yeah.
most violent thing in the whole movie was Drew Barrymore's skinned alive. That's probably the most violent thing in the whole movie.
Or when they're stabbing each other.
Probably, yeah.
That was pretty
Yeah.
intense when I was a kid.
It wasn't intense. I found it actually really comedical. The whole
It is now. I love that part. It's like
the whole
best part
thing
of the
with
movie.
Stu just crying over being cut and then getting hit with the phone. I rewind that part every time. Just
Yeah.
oh, you hit me with a phone, Jake. I
like,
absolutely
my mom
love
and
that.
dad are gonna be so mad at me. I
Did you
love that
really
part.
call the police? You bet your sweet ass I did.
Dude, Matthew Lillard or whatever his name
Lillard.
is, that dude's great, man. That
Yeah.
dude's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, I liked him in 13 Ghosts.
I haven't
Yeah,
seen that one
I
yet.
actually kind of like that movie.
Man, that's total irony, man. Like 4 days ago, I watched the original 13th Ghost and the remake in one night, and yeah, I just hadn't done that in a long time. Just watched an original and a remake, and I love the original film. It's different, it's fun, black and white. You know, directed by William Castle, of course. You know, with all his really fucking funny
Yeah.
gimmicks. I love the aspects in the film where you can totally see the strings and everyone's like, oh, look at this thing, this move. You got like a piece of whatever it is just kind of floating through the air, but you can see the strings. That's so good. William Castle's, he cracks me up, man.
Yeah.
I know something that we should probably mention really quickly, considering we talked about every franchise except for the Friday the 13th franchise, but Part 4 is like my favorite in the franchise. It's one of my favorite all-time horror movies.
I gotta say, Part 5 is probably my favorite out of the whole series.
That's interesting, 'cause a
surprisingly.
lot of people don't like Part 5.
I kind of
I
like
personally
it.
like it a lot.
Yeah, I
Friday
don't know
the
why,
13th.
but it's always just stood out to me being Jason being a lot different, you know.
It's not
Blue and-
Jason, that's why.
Exactly, but like a blue mask instead of a red mask, you know. You're going to this camp for these, you know, like sort of troubled teens, and
Yeah,
There
Part
was
5 seems
I
a
don't
lot more
remember
sleazy.
what's his name, Joey, just the kid going crazy over getting his chocolate bar cut in half.
That part's messed
That's
up.
the one scene I've always loved so much, and of course Junior on the motorcycle.
Ethel was like my favorite Friday the 13th character ever. She's so hilarious.
I'd say for me, my top three are probably 3, 4, and 7. The best scene for me, probably from the whole franchise, I think the creepiest fucking moment, I think the most genuinely scary moment in the whole Friday the 13th franchise is at the end of 3. I think it's the end of 3.
Spoiler alert.
Where she sees the fucking Jason up in the house, and he's got his face pressed against the window without the mask.
I
It
don't
just-
remember that, surprisingly.
No.
He looks so fucking creepy.
I think-
And then he runs out of the house. He
Yeah.
runs out of the house and
That
fucking
is
hops
creepy,
in the
man.
water. Man, so bizarre looking.
I think it's also creepy when he takes his mask off just to show his face.
In New York, yeah, in Manhattan.
There is one
No,
interesting
no, no.
thing
In
about
Part 3.
Part 3. There's one interesting thing. You see
Oh
her,
yeah, he does do it in 3.
you see her stab his hand when he's trying to open the door, and I think that's the first time ever in a Friday the 13th movie you actually hear him moan and growl from it. It's towards the end after. Well, I'm not going to say the ending, but I just remember always hearing like a moaning sound after he gets stabbed in the hand.
Yeah, he's made a few noises throughout the series, but I know Moods, your favorite's Part 4 too, right?
Yeah, if I can remember correctly, nobody can probably remember my ranking, but yeah, Part 4 is my favorite. I think it went Part 4, Part 3, Part 2, Part 6 are like my top 4.
I don't know what everybody loves about Part 3.
Yeah,
I just
I
don't-
can't see it either. I guess maybe the
I
whole
love
like
3,
it.
man.
charm
The
of being
fucking
3D.
the
I
the
love
kills in the barn. The fucking barn scene, okay, is phenomenal.
Yeah.
The music, the fucking music is the best out of any of the Friday the 13th. The intro is great. The fact that they made it a 3D one, the eyeball scene with the arrow. I can go on
That's
for
good. I
days.
love that.
Yeah, see, it's got memorable
3D
shit,
fucking
man.
amazing.
And Part 3's got the best score. I think I used to have Part 3 music as my FrightTube intro.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I fucking love the music, but I don't know, there's something about Part 3, him getting his mask. I don't know what it is, man. It's just, there's something weird about that film, but
Yeah, well, that's the
That's
thing
why
I
I
hear
always wear
everybody
mask,
says. Like,
too.
well, that's when he gets the mask.
it's memorable.
It
That's
is
what it is. It's
memorable.
memorable. It might not even be like the coolest thing, but it's memorable. And there is some cool deaths in that film. And
Yeah, I guess so. I just,
you know.
I don't know. I prefer like Part 2, 4, 5, 7, 6. 6 has really grown on me. I love Part
Yeah.
6.
6 is great, man. And that was kind of leading into what I was going to say. You know, like part 4, part 3, part 2, part 6 for me. That's why part 5 I always forget about, because I watched pretty much all the other ones before part 5. I even really like part 7 with the whole, you know, the whole fucking what do you want to call it? Not supernatural, but
Telekinetic.
Yeah, that girl,
yeah, the telekinesis and shit. Like, you know, it's just an interesting aspect to the film, and that one I find a little more memorable. But I do like the fact of part 5 that the body count is ridiculous in that movie.
Yeah.
It's like what, 21 or something like that. Like, and it turns out not even to be.
It got a little nude.
Spoiler alert,
too.
but most people have seen it. But you know, it's fun, and like I said, I'm gonna go home tonight and watch that again. I seriously am.
The funny thing I have to say about 4, 5, and 6 being all focused on really Tommy Jarvis.
Yeah,
the
that's
thought
like
of them.
Tommy
We talked
Jarvis
about
arc.
this a little bit yesterday, but the thought of them doing a new versus Friday the 13th, but instead of Freddy or Leatherface, Michael Myers, they're thinking of having Jason's opponent being Tommy Jarvis.
I always think they should bring back Jarvis. I think
And supposedly they're saying Corey Feldman, but you really can't. I think you told me that yesterday,
Yeah,
JP,
Corey
but
Feldman
you really
has been
can't trust
known
Corey
for-
Feldman.
Yeah, but part 6, going back to that really quick, do you guys think that part 6 feels like out of the first, 8 films, to me it always feels like the most technically well made and like the biggest, like when it comes to just the way it's filmed and
I
just
agree,
the acting,
yeah.
everything just seems like bigger and more well made. Like even like the acting.
Is it because it takes place in so many different settings? You know, like
It
it's
could
kind of all
be.
over the place.
There's also no nudity in that one, which is kind of weird.
You know what? I never even thought of that.
Yeah,
That's
neither have
interesting.
I.
That's interesting because I know. I think it was in part 2 or whatever. They actually made them put nudity into the film.
Yeah, I
right?
remember the first one having no nudity at all, but
Yeah, and then when they wanted to market, I think they did a cut of the film. They're like, no, they had to go and shoot some boob parts to throw into the film because that's what the producers wanted.
Also, it actually has kids in part 6 too.
at the end I remember that when
Like-
they're all watching Tommy get CPR from the whole boat thing. That scene, the motorboat scene where he gets, spoiler alert again, but when he gets his face cut by the motorboat, that was one scene that I've always remembered of Friday the 13th.
Yeah, I like the whole end battle scene. I think it's great. The in the boat with the fire, it's really cool. And I like how in part 7 it opens up with Jason down under the water and stuff. I love that. He's all like rotted and stuff. I love how he looks in part 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, I even like part 8. A lot of people don't like 8,
It's
but I
grown
actually
on me.
don't mind 8. I
Is
really
that
don't mind it.
Manhattan, or
Yeah, it takes on Manhattan. I really don't mind 8. When it comes to the Friday the 13th franchise, there's really only 2 in there that I genuinely do not like, and that is 9 and 10. Jason Goes to Hell and Jason X.
I've
Jason
never
Goes to
seen
Hell
fully
was
Jason
first.
X, and I've never seen at all Jason Goes to Hell. So
Jason 10 is ridiculous, but there's some pretty memorable kills in that shit. But
the
overall,
the freezing scene, that's one that everybody remembers probably.
I
Yeah,
just hate the idea that they fucking took Jason to space. That pissed me off so bad. It irritated because it seemed like it was in the era when it was fucking let's send him to space. Every fucking franchise they ruin with that shit. Hellraiser, fucking
Now
know
they're
what?
doing Machete.
Fucking Leprechaun.
Yeah, they try to
know-
send everybody to fucking space, and it's just such a shitty idea. Stop sending horror icons to space. I don't want to fucking see Phantasm 5 in fucking space. Fuck
Yeah, me
that.
neither.
Apparently
No.
now with Machete Kills or Machete Kills Again, he's going to outer space for that one.
Which seems perfect for that.
Well, Machete is fucking Machete. What do you expect? He
But
he
they
goes
originally-
swinging. He swings down a building with somebody's large intestines. So what could
The
you expect
president's like
Machete to
Charlie
do next?
Sheen in that, right?
I
So,
don't-
like, what the fuck do you
I
expect?
haven't
mean,
heard that.
Yeah, it's supposed to be Charlie Sheen as the president.
Oh shit. Oh
Yeah,
god.
I like all of the Friday the 13ths, including Jason Goes to Hell and Jason X. I think Jason X is the worst. But I know the reason why they took Jason to space originally is because they came off of Jason Goes to Hell. They set it up for the Freddy versus Jason when Freddy's mask hand comes out and grabs the mask at the end of Jason Goes to Hell. And they was planning on doing the Freddy versus Jason, but they wanted to put out another sequel in order to keep Jason fresh in everybody's mind, but they didn't want to ruin the storyline, so there's like, hell, we'll just set it way in the future so that, you know, it won't mess up the storyline, but it still sucks.
Yeah, I didn't like that one. I mean, they had a few you know, films in the franchise that were doozies, you know, 9 and 10, but overall, I really liked all of them for the most part. I mean,
It's
even
my
Freddy vs.
favorite
Jason
franchise.
remake, I enjoyed both of those. I liked the remake, and I thought Freddy vs. Jason was fine too. I mean, I know a lot of people hate on both of those, but I liked
People
both of them.
expect too much out of Freddy vs. Jason.
Yeah, they expect a sequel now, so, and apparently that's not going to happen ever, so.
Yeah, that's not going to happen anytime soon. But not like Freddy vs. Jason. It's Freddy and Jason on the same screen. That is good enough, and you know, good enough. Like people expect way too much out of that. To me, it's so cool. If you would have told me that was actually going to happen back, you know, when I was a kid, I'd be like, that's probably the greatest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
That's so true too, because that is one of those like unbelievable things that you would never think you would see, but it happened. Thank God it happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still wish they did that whole Pinhead scene when they both go to hell.
Yeah, I love that. I love that idea.
Apparently they couldn't get the rights to Pinhead because the studios were different.
Yeah,
but
Dimension.
If New Line could have got that, I think it was New Line that released it. Freddy vs. Jason originally.
Yeah, it was.
I think New Line's defunct now, but if New Line could have obtained the rights to fucking Hellraiser for that, holy shit! They not only could they have set it up and had a phenomenal ending, the next one could have involved Pinhead and could have been phenomenal because in Hell or with the Cenobites, you could throw any other horror villain in that's, you know, technically evil or in Hell. I mean, you could throw anybody in there.
Fuck, you can even throw Billy and Stu in from Scream since they're both in hell, so anything could happen.
No, but
Billy
can you believe that there was never a Freddy vs. Jason 2? That is insane. How did they not do it? Why would they wait so long to where the rights went away? Like, do they not like making money? It's just so silly to me that never happened.
I know that movie had to make crazy money. There's no way it didn't. I know that movie had to make. I
seen it opening night in the drive-in. It's like one of the greatest memories I have.
Oh yeah, I wish I would have been able to see it when it first came out.
It was filmed
right
right
around the DVD released.
It would have been nice to see now them more focus on Crystal Lake rather than being Elm Street most of the movie. Because I know the whole point of that was bringing Jason back so Freddy could regain some of his power, but it would be nice to have most of it shot on Crystal Lake rather than Elm Street.
It does feel more of an Elm Street film, but I think the story and the way that they brought them together was genius. I think that worked so well, and I think a lot of people don't appreciate how hard it would be to bring those two together in a story that actually makes sense.
I agree. Definitely.
I honestly just wanted to see Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash. You know,
I got the cool, man.
I got the graphic novel, and apparently that's what the second one was supposed to be.
Yeah, and if you even look in Jason Goes to Hell, it makes so much sense because there is a shot of the Necronomicon in the basement or whatever in the actual Jason Goes to Hell film. It would have made so much sense.
Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash is every horror movie's fan's wet dream right there. You know, everything clashes. It would work perfect, man. It's just so brilliant, man. Yeah. It's such a shame that never got made, and
I want to read those.
I honestly don't think we'll ever see them.
Yeah.
I want to check that out.
They should honestly at least do some new, even if it's not Freddy or Jason, they should at least do a new versus type movie. But they would have to take a long time to think about that.
Do you guys remember when Clive Barker, I believe, said that he wanted to do a Pinhead versus Michael Myers with John Carpenter directing and him writing?
That I never heard.
Wow.
That would have been awesome. I believe
that would have been cool.
Documentary or something.
That would have been very cool.
Yeah, just reeking on the kids of Haddonfield. That would be pretty badass.
Just the idea of Clive Barker writing and John Carpenter directing, that idea alone is really cool without Michael Myers and Pinhead, so you throw them in and it's even way cooler.
Yeah, I agree.
I really can't see Pinhead actually fighting, though. You know, I could see Jason and Freddy fighting. I could see Michael Myers fighting. I don't really see Pinhead fighting that much.
He would be using, like, hook
Powers
chains and shit.
And shit.
He'd be using, like, yeah, powers and stuff, but I can't really see him fight physically. That's one thing where I really don't see it.
There's been other Versus movies, man. Puppet Master vs. Demonic Toys. Remember that unofficial, shitty fucking...
I've
I'd
never
see
seen
that
it.
in Best
Puppet
Buy
Masters.
every day for $2.99. I haven't picked that up.
I need to grab that, though, simply because I need it to complete the collection.
I don't
And
have
I gotta
one.
get the
don't
newest
have
Puppet
their
Master,
DVD.
too.
It's
Has
the only one I
anybody-
don't own. It's horrible. It's fucking
Has-
horrible.
Isn't there like another sequel after that? I think there's
Puppet Master?
Puppet
There's
Master
been a
vs.
few
Demonic
Puppet
Toys
Masters
too.
then. Oh, no, I don't think so, but... Has anybody seen the newest Puppet Master film?
The second Axis of Evil one.
Yeah, what is it?
I think it's
Master-
Axis of Evil 2. Like
Was it-
I'm
I
not
can't
sure,
remember.
but the whole Axis of Evil thing, I don't understand like where the whole
the 10th
Nazi
film-
thing comes in.
The 10th film, yeah, the Puppet Master 10, I think the storyline takes place after part 3?
Well, Part 9 takes place after Part 3.
Okay, then this one takes part after that, or yeah, I think that's the way it goes. So this is like a sequel to that, but so this would be technically part 5. Like you can watch the Puppet Master series out of order, kind of like the Halloween series, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that franchise is fucked. It's all over the place.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
DVDs are either like in different box sets, not together, sold separately, or one's out of print and you can't fill your collection up with it.
I
It's
have
impossible.
I have all the movies except for the Versus unofficial Puppet Master film, but I have part 10 on Blu-ray and I still haven't watched it because I heard the fucking puppets are all CGI'd and look shitty, and I was like, what?
Man,
I can't bring myself to watch that.
I heard the
garbage. I like-
Blu-ray really doesn't make a difference than the DVD. That's what I've heard from a lot.
You know
of
what? I
people.
got it for at the time I bought my Blu-ray. It was like the same price as the DVD, so I just picked up the Blu-ray just cause.
Yeah.
Otherwise, yeah.
I don't get like. I understand from the cover there has to do something with like Nazism. I don't understand. I've even looked at the trailer. There's nothing
the
that
first-
describes it.
The first couple films were set, you know, in the Nazi era, and, you know, they would flash forward. So there's always kind of been a Nazi, you know, thing going on with the films. So that's,
Yeah.
you know, these ones are also like prequels, I guess, also.
Like part 3, Toulon's Revenge, I think is.
That one's great. That's the best one.
I think that's my favorite one in the. I think we talked about this before. That's my favorite Puppet Master too.
Yeah, that series took a big step down in quality, though. I mean, they never really had the greatest quality, but, you know, even with the stop motion, it looked pretty sick in the original films. The puppets look kind of bad now.
Well, it's done by the same company that made like Evil Bong and that type of movie. So what do
Yeah,
you really
full-on.
expect?
I like the Evil Bong movies, man.
Speaking of that, it's
Yeah,
like
Evil Bong was
really,
alright.
it's really out of the topic. But they're different companies. But I don't know if you guys know Terror Toons. Apparently, they're doing a third Terror Toons movie.
Wow.
Like,
Yeah, I've never seen those.
I remember
Or
just
my
like
crazy 50-pack box set that I got, though.
yeah. It's on one of those I have, but it's one of Brain Damage Films. Like they consider it like one of their jewels next to like Traces of Death. But I think after last week's test show, someone sent me a link online asking me to join Terror Toons 3 or whatever. So I haven't even seen the first one fully, but shit.
Well, I guess that about wraps it up for tonight, guys.
Yeah,
Word.
Anybody else have anything they want to add?
we had a few hiccups, but I think it went over pretty decent.
For a
Fun
first show,
talking.
yeah.
I have no idea why I kept getting kicked out of here. Trying to talk and all of a sudden I'm getting booted out, so I don't know what's up with that.
Yeah, my
We'll get it
connection
wrapped
went
up
bad
next
at one
time.
point.
Well, I guess I have to say to everybody, make sure you guys tune in next week, next Monday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we will be back. Hopefully we'll have Movie Collector 666 joining us as well to our panel, and we'll be discussing some new topics. Just make sure you tune in to find out what they are. So I'll see you guys next Monday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is Clive Craven signing out, passing it along to...
Yo, you guys, once again, check me out. YouTube/DoubleshotJ. And Twitter is awesome. These guys, you follow me on Twitter. I tweet, stuff that I'm watching. I tweet about, UFC events that are on. I usually tweet during the fights if you're into that. Twitter/DoubleshotJP. Somebody fucking took DoubleshotJ. I don't know why, but they did. So, yeah.
As always, see y'all next time. Remember, follow me on YouTube. That's Shock Extreme 1. Also, go on to Facebook. You can follow me at Shock Extreme Productions. Don't bother looking me up on Twitter because I'm not going to be on there, nor will I probably ever be on there unless something big happens. And if you really want to see more of me, you could also look on Instagram under Steven2, I don't know what they call them, lower things, so just look up Steven Ferndino, whatever you want. Or go on Vine, look me up on Steven Ferndino, whatever. But passing it on to you-know-who.
Yo, y'all can check me out, Mood616 on YouTube, and that's pretty much it. You can try and stalk me on Facebook. My name on there is MoodsJFailure. Friend me. I will maybe accept it if I feel like it, whatever. But
what about Instagram? Not Instagram. What about
like
Twitter?
Anyways, guys.
You guys are some Twitter haters, man.
It's so pointless. I don't get it.
Shut up.
All right, that wraps it up, guys. I will see everybody next week. I will see all of you next week. Make sure you tune in Monday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we'll be back with the Burial Grounds. Until then, see you. I'm out. Peace.
Deuces.
Peace.